strangest disappearances in recent history. There was no fight, no clear cause, no reason for him to be found dead in the middle of nowhere, curled in the dirt, his hands twisted as if clinging to life. Some believe he was running from something real. Others think his mind betrayed him. But one thing is certain. In his final moments, Cullen Finnerty was afraid. Something had put a terror in him that not even the NFL could. And whatever it was, it drove him deep into the woods, where he never came back. The Trail of Shadows, a hiker's nightmare. In 2008, an 18-year-old named Matt Higgins set off on an adventure he had dreamed of for years. Inspired by the movie Into the Wild, he yearned for the raw, untamed wilderness, a place where he could test himself against nature and, perhaps, find something deeper within. His plan was ambitious. He would hike the entire California section of the Pacific Crest Trail, a grueling 1,700-mile trek stretching from the scorching deserts near the Mexican border to the misty forested mountains near Oregon. It was a journey that would test his endurance, patience, and ultimately his sanity. Matt was no stranger to the outdoors. He had spent his childhood hiking through the wilds of Oregon, camping in both marked and unmarked territories, navigating through dense woods where predators lurked unseen. But nothing, not even his years of experience, could have prepared him for what awaited him deep in the Lassen National Forest. A silent encounter. The first weeks of his hike were uneventful, even serene. He moved at his own pace, camping wherever he found a clearing, surviving on carefully rationed food. The occasional rattlesnake or unexpected dehydration spell was nothing new. But as he entered the remote, suffocating depths of Lassen National Forest, the air itself seemed to change. The trees pressed in closer, their gnarled limbs intertwining overhead, casting deep, shifting shadows even in broad daylight. The silence became oppressive. One afternoon, as he rounded a bend in the trail, he saw them. A man and a woman sat on a boulder just off the path. They were dressed entirely in white, loose, flowing clothes that seemed out of place in the rugged wilderness. Their faces were gaunt, their skin pale and smeared with dirt. The man had a thick, long beard. The woman's hair was long and tangled. But what sent a chill creeping up Matt's spine was their eyes. They weren't merely watching him. They were staring at him, unblinking. Their expressions unreadable. The longer he looked, the more unnatural they seemed. Their clothes were ragged, yet they sat in eerie stillness, their posture unnaturally stiff. Something about them felt wrong, as though they had been waiting for him. Matt hesitated, forcing himself to glance away. He muttered a quick hello as he passed them, but they didn't respond. Not a wave, not a nod, not even a flicker of recognition that he had spoken. Just those vacant, dead-eyed stares following him as he walked by. Unease prickled the back of his neck, but he shook it off. Maybe they were drifters. Maybe they didn't speak English. He had no reason to worry. Or so he thought. The first violation. That night, Matt set up camp well off the trail, pushing deep into the trees for privacy. He followed his usual precautions, hanging his food high in a tree to deter bears. The air was thick and still, the kind of night where sound seemed to carry forever. But exhaustion overtook his unease, and soon he drifted into sleep. Sometime in the early hours, he stirred. A noise had woken him, a rustling just beyond his tent. At first, he thought it was just the wind shifting through the leaves. But then, something moved. A sound too deliberate. A faint crunch of leaves. Matt held his breath. Every muscle in his body tensed. He could hear his heartbeat thudding against his ribs. Then, another step, and another. Slow, measured. Someone or something was approaching his tent. Frozen in place, he gripped the handle of his knife. His ears strained in the suffocating darkness, trying to track the sound. Then, just as suddenly as the steps had started, they stopped. Silence. The kind of silence that suffocates. The kind that makes you feel like you aren't alone. Minutes stretched on, but Matt didn't move. His pulse pounded in his ears. The air inside the tent felt thick and stifling. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, his exhaustion overtook his fear, and somehow he drifted into a restless sleep. Dawn came like a fragile promise of safety. Matt unzipped his tent, blinking in the pale morning light, and stepped outside. That was when he noticed it. His food bag was gone. Confused, he stepped closer to the tree where he had carefully secured it the night before. At first, he assumed a bear had gotten to it. Perhaps it had clawed through the rope and dragged the bag away. But when he looked down, his stomach dropped. Boot prints, human boot prints, 2 distinct sets. They led from the edge of his campsite to the base of the tree where his food had hung. But that wasn't the worst part. The prints didn't just stop at the tree. They continued, circling his tent. Pacing around him as he slept, a shiver crept up his spine. His blood turned ice cold. The people in white had followed him. They had been here, standing right outside his tent while he was asleep. Watching him, waiting, his skin crawled as he retraced the steps. They had moved quietly, efficiently, never making enough noise to wake him. The realization made his breath come in shallow gasps. He had spent the night completely vulnerable while they prowled outside, just inches away. Matt's hands trembled as he packed up his gear. He had to keep moving. He had to put as much distance as possible between himself and whatever those people were. But deep down, he knew the truth. They weren't done with him yet. The story then continues into the even more terrifying experiences he would endure in the following nights, with whispering voices, circling footsteps, and a flashlight that would illuminate his tent in the dead of night.